the goal for the meeting? What do we have? We don't have any agenda set up for, yeah, we do. Look at that.
So we have Oli from Open Ecosystem here, and Joachim and Christina.
Lynn will hopefully be back in a sec.
Yeah. We can give Lynn, I don't know if Lynn's going to be able to continue. I know they had some kind of conflict. Actually, Lynn and Bob are at the same location, and we just had a meeting in the previous hour. Talking about different areas where there's a need for cooperation in the development of an open ecosystem, and how we can connect communities. Bob was saying, you know, that you know, have the common objectives, whatever.
I can share if you want, or you can share, Jim.
The agenda. If it ever comes up here, I think we have too much running on this machine. I guess I should kill something. So, I guess we can check in. And Lynn is.
Oli, when you get a chance, will you put an open co-op link in the chat?
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay, there's a website and Lumio link in the agenda. So,
Jim, I'm going to let you chair because I'm realizing the noise and the background noise in the coffee shop is probably not good for me to be the chair.
okay. Lynn's back. We were having a little bit of introduction. What's going on with the open ecosystem? And
yeah, I apologize. I had a hard freeze on Zoom and I had to.
Yeah, all right. Yeah, we have the open app ecosystem here. Most of the activities on Lumio. Did I say on record here that it's a group of many people from various projects growing out of the Spiral Group, developing open app architecture, and I guess the first thing was the cooperation on the tech map, and we looked at the we were looking at the at our Kumu diagram, and we're thinking about the next steps in terms of, you know, creating data in a usable format. Do you have any thoughts on that, Joachim?
I have more thoughts on. I was just looking at the website of the Open App ecosystem. So a couple of thoughts about that, because you do seem to overlap a lot with what we're planning to do too here. So that's great to have you here. The standards and gateways. I can talk a little bit about the social ledger later. But let me step back on the mission, the ideas we have to move the collective forward. So similar to you, I think we're looking a lot at open source projects, right? So eventually, what we want to do is fund those projects and bring people who work in in these projects on board to help them understand where we're going, and we understand what they are planning to do with their projects. So we want to get a conversation going, but we want to, go further than that, further than just have a conversation or a better understanding of the tool sets they provide. We want to kind of help them develop their tool set, and also help setting up some evaluation criteria, right? So our motto is technology we trust for a world we want, right? So what does that mean, technology we trust? So we're setting up a catalog of things now to say, hey, this is a recommended tool, this fulfills our criteria, and suggest to others that they may be able to use that. We also want to take it further in terms of, I think similar to your idea of pushing it out into other collectives, other groups that are out there. And eventually we want to take it into a client space too. So based on the open source project and the feature set and functionality this code provides, we want to understand what kind of solution sets we can develop with this. So that means we want to go directly into other contexts, right, where these solutions make sense. And that could be client context, could be another community context, could be a lot of things. But since we have a pretty good understanding of what the tool is capable of, right, and how we connect people now to use and adopt these kind of tool sets, we believe we can do a lot in that space to bring that into other areas and to help people out doing some stuff with the technology. So going beyond just understanding what the technology is and whether it's trustworthy, right? We want to go a step further and be active and implementing, bringing in the technology into other spaces, and that could be kind of a service. We're not there yet, but it could be kind of a part of a service portfolio that the Digital Life Collective could develop in the future. Right? So
Yeah, I think.
yeah, go ahead, Jim.
Yeah, I think your model of how we can help them with their funding efforts and help with the management and other aspects of the projects, as well as hopefully be able to provide funds directly to these projects, is sort of what distinguishes us from what the open app ecosystem is trying to do in terms of, although, I mean, there's overlap in the sense that we want all these pieces to work together. We don't want islands all over the place of software that doesn't work together. I think the focus of the open app ecosystem is that you can use these tools together, as well as have trustworthy software that's open and free.
Can I jump in?
Sure.
So I want to add just to what Joaquin and Jim have said, that there's even a step further that we want to go with the map in terms of we want to be able to leverage the networks that we have within the Digital Life Collective, and that we're really going to branch into, and find ways so that so the wisdom of the crowd is not always the best in terms of what apps actually need to be built. And so we need to leverage deep domain expertise as well. And so that's part of the reason that in the map, you can search by level in the stack. And you can see what apps fit where, and we can actually help determine what app or kind of apps, category of apps are most critical to supporting, things like democracy or fairness across the web. Rather than just saying, oh, this is a good idea, let's fund that. We want to fund it within the context of a stronger internet for the world.
That's great, Christina. And let me even build on that. The other thing we're looking to do, or we're currently doing, is looking at how we are organized internally, right? So how do we get started on, building, creating this community space, but also going further than that and saying, members can not only engage themselves and participate, they can do and create some things. So what we're looking at is a way to bring them into what we call a social creative space, where you not only get into conversations. I mean, conversations are great, and sharing expertise and exchanging ideas is great, but we want to get to a level where people are more committed towards doing some of the things. And we're working on one thing, I think Jim introduced that already, which is called the social ledger. So the social ledger is kind of the glue between all of the members here, and a way to say, here are certain activities going on across the collective, and we want to make this part more transparent, right? We want to have a way to hook into all of the different activities and the areas of interest that we see popping up in the collective, make that transparent so people can actually see what is happening in the collective. So this is very much focused on doing things, right? Rather than just having good conversations. We see this a lot, all of these collectives and communities out there. But the idea is to move that forward into something that's more, it's an outcome, an output, something comes out that then again others can use and build upon, right? And for that, we have created this toolkit called the social ledger that helps teams to quickly assemble. You form something like a team, like a circle, and you invite team members into that space. You define some roles, and you define the expertise levels inside your team, and then you start working on certain aspects of why you come together and what is actually the thing that you're producing. So the thing that you're producing, I'm calling this a social object. There's another name for that called boundary objects. So these are objects where people gather around and they want to create this thing together, right? So it's very much the co-creation process that we want to embed in this social ledger structure. And once they start doing that, so they tell us, okay, how committed are you to that social object, right? So it's a simple thing. We created something in Mattermost. That's our activity stream chat application, and created a thing where it's very easy to just share with others. Okay, I'm committed to the social object. I'm doing this kind of thing. And others can immediately pick it up from there and recognize, oh, there's some activity going on. And respond to that. So there's a whole kind of feedback loop embedded in this idea of, Jim has it here, right? Where we're inside Mattermost here, and you can see in the center here is the activity stream, right? So these are the conversations that are passing by very quickly. I mean, from your networks, right? You go into Slack, you go into other tools where these conversations are very rapid and things disappear very quickly, right? So the social ledger, the idea of the social ledger is now that you bring back and kind of anchor on some of the core outputs of these channels. So you bring back a social object around, let's say here's a brand identity guide. Let's say you're working on a brand identity guide. And that's your output for, let's say, the marketing channel here under editing content. So you would say, okay, let me let's create this thing, whatever it is, and gather people around that, right? And build that, and then share how much of the commitment you want to create for this. So the brand identity guide here I see is already done, right? So that's the thing that's we've created in the past. So that's a link here actually in our social ledger. But okay, now this is another aspect of the social ledger where you can see now the brand identity guide in the context of other activities inside that that circle. So you can see here is Christina and Joachim, both of us are here. So we sort of committed or have connected to the brand identity guide. So we're working with this, or we have a connection to that social object. And there are more, right? So if you zoom out, what who's it doing? Jim or Christina just did. So you can see in editing content, there are other activities, right? There's, for example, defining editorial circle coordination norms. So norms is a big piece to establish inside a circle, right? But other activities, and the size of the circle actually tells you how much commitment there's going on. So it's kind of an indicator of, okay, this is an important piece for that particular circle here, naming the editing content circle. So you might want to pay more attention to that, or it could be that maybe it requires more resources in the future. So just an indicator, right? So again, it's a signal to the rest of the collective to say, hey, something is going on here, just by sharing a few data points about what you're doing, right? So you see the names here, you see the commitment levels, and you see the other activities within that context, right? And then if you go back to the Mattermost, so context is a very important piece, because right now we are in the editing content circle, right? Or editing content group that we created. So that is the context, and all of the stuff that you see here, all the activities in this table are related to that context, for that particular context, right? So you can see there's a goal defined, there's a little goal icon here. There's an activity happening here. There's a guide editorial guidebook we put together for that. There's a link to the Ghost publishing platform. So a lot of things are just listed here for the purpose of building something together in the particular circle, which technically, of course, is just a channel. In just like in Slack, there are a lot of channels. Mattermost has the same thing. So here's a channel for editing content, and here are the items the team is working on. So that's here's another thing, which is basically the same view of what you just saw, just through a dashboard. So we've created this dashboard that allows you to drill down into specific circles and see sort of as tiles, the same activities you saw there, but here listed as tiles. So it's a quick way to, go deeper or zoom in and out. So here's the zooming out, right? So here are all of the different areas of the collective that people are engaged with. And you could click on any of those. So if you click on, let's say, the blue ones here, so the color coding is the domains, the high-level domains we created in Mattermost. So TE stands for technology. So that's the technology domain. And one of them is the website crew, right? So you click on that and you see now detailed tiles within the technology crew, right? So again, these are all the activities we're seeing inside the website crew area, and that ranges from links to the Ghost editing environment, the Ghost implementation that's currently happening, right? There's a checklist around the different items that we're building. There is some background information about what the publishing model looks like. And then, of course, there's the web copy itself is a tile, so you can go and look what people are currently writing up for the new website that we're creating. So a lot of things where you can quickly drill down and see what is happening in that circle. So obviously, this is very important for the team itself, but it's also good for other parties, other groups, other individuals who want to just see what's going on, let's say in the technology crew circle there. And they could jump in and take a look at these objects and say, hey, this is very interesting. Why did I join that team and help them out? So that's an easy step again that the social ledger captures, right? So you're interested in web technology, you have some experience, great. Go to the web team channel in Mattermost, and you see the teams listed there, and you can just join it. You can have a chat with them in the conversation channel, and then you can join that team, and then take on a role, and then start participating in existing objects that are created.
We have a new face I'd like to greet, and then Joaquim Oli put a question in the chat too, in the Zoom chat. Hello.
Okay.
Your name says Draft.
Hi. Yeah, I'm Draft. It's me.
Hi.
It's my real name.
Hi. I'm
Hi.
Christina. This is the Digital Life Collective. How'd you pop in here? Where did you come from?
Draft is part of the Open App ecosystem.
Open App ecosystem. I met Jeep. Yeah. So there, I don't see. Oh, it's here. Okay. Hi. Okay. So we are 6, 7, 8. Yeah, right.
So
And
Joaquim
what's
was
the
just giving,
document? Oh, okay. Yeah.
that's the agenda for notes for the day. And Joaquim was just giving an overview of how the Digital Life Collective could interface with the Open App ecosystem, and sort of what we do and what our goals are and how they might overlap.
Right. Thank you. Thanks for joining. Let me just wrap up this part, then can we move on in our agenda here. But yeah, the question here I see in the chat is, what is the social ledger about? And project management element is a good way to describe it, but I describe it as kind of a scaffolding. It's a way to help teams to establish themselves and to define who they are and what they do, right? And into that scaffolding, you can plug into any tool you want, right? So if you're a big Trello fan, right? So a Trello dashboard might be a social object you plug into the social ledger. So everybody gathers around that Trello thing and says, okay, I can, it becomes a tile in the dashboard. It becomes an activity inside the holonic circle structure you saw, right? And you can see that listed inside the channel in Mattermost. So it's multiple ways we're getting to the same thing, In that case, if you want to use Trello as your project management tool, great, so be it. That's the tool. And the only thing that the ledger captures is a link to that particular tool and a naming convention that says you're using the, let's say, marketing Trello board, right? The marketing Trello board becomes the social object, and that's what you sort of, that's the signal you send to the rest of the collective. So everybody would see, okay, there is a Trello board that these guys are using inside the circle, right? All I need to know, right? And if I want to find out more, of course, I can go either join that team or I can go to the Trello board itself if it's open to the rest of the collective, and see what are the individual tasks and things that are actually happening in there.
It lets people choose their own tools more easily, but still have a coordination. Like instead of being a project management tool that we all use, that's like top down, you have to use this. It allows you within our team chat, sort of without kicking you out of the workflow of just team chat and Mattermost, you can choose what tools you want to use for project management with your own team and then link to them and make it visible.
Yeah, that's a great way to describe it, Christina. So you said workflow, right? So it's really one of the design criteria for the social ledger is to put that into the flow of work, right? So I don't want people to jump out and go to a complete different system and, let's say a reporting tool or a document where you have to type up what you did last week, right? Give us an update or a status report. That brings you out of the flow of work. Instead, I just want to have it right in the system, and the actual tool that you're using, right? They are part of this social ledger, right? So let's say if there's a meeting agenda that you use for a meeting every week, that becomes the link to that document that you update, right? So that becomes part of the social ledger, not something extra, right? Not something that you write up or summarize or write it for the rest of the collective. That's not necessary, right? So the signals that the social ledger automatically sends across the collective is enough for other people to pick up that signal and say, hey, there's something going on and we might want to look closer at that thing, right?
Okay, I think I'm getting closer to understanding it, and thanks for bearing with us here, because it seems like a key point. But I think your example there is great in terms of an agenda. So you would be, I'm presuming that the way that you access the social ledger is either through Mattermost or through the Holonic circles or through the dashboard. And then if you were to enter by any of those routes, then can you sort of walk us through the example of how you would use the link to the Google Doc agenda, how that would be embedded in the social ledger?
Right, right. We can, let's go to the last square there. That's the town square tiles. That's kind of the high level, TH stands for the collective. And that has a link here you see called meeting agenda notes. So now we are at the top level of the collective, and all you do is just click on this, right? And it brings you to whatever document it is that you maintain here, right? So in this case, at the DigLife collective, we have a specific format for capturing our notes in all these Zoom video conferences, right? So that becomes the social object for the collective in terms of our Zoom meetings that are happening Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, right? But again, this is scaffolding, right? So if you have another way of recording your notes or putting together an agenda, well, then that becomes the link, right? And that becomes a tile that you see, and as you point out correctly, that you see either here in the dashboard, or you can list it in the channel you're working in, or you can go to the Holonic circle structure and do that same thing there. Maybe one other thing I want to list, is it Christina or Jim? Right, the team members of a certain channel, because I do want to point out, if you type in this here, yeah, go back to Mattermost, right, and type /dig members. So that gives you a list of the current members of this particular circle here. So we're in the editing content channel. You see that on the left side, which is part of the marketing domain. So the little squares on the very left, we call those domains in our collective. And there are now, 5 members, right? Every member has a certain role, and we have 4 roles defined for this now. There's a guide, there's a scribe, there's an actor, and there's a link. This all leans, on the definition you see in other sort of Holonic structures. Like holacracy hasn't defined. We didn't like any of the other descriptions, like admin or a secretary. It really doesn't reflect what we're doing here. But we think this is a good starting point to say these are generic roles we would apply for every channel. And on the right side, you see the level there, right? So the level talks about what's your level of expertise for that particular channel. So again, the context is very important. So if you say you were a novice, an apprentice, a regular, or an expert, that means you're an expert for editing content here, right? So Christina is that expert here in this space, and others might just be, popping in or helping out, and they see themselves as a novice in this space. But that's something we can then use. That bit of information we can then later use to actually calculate some additional data points. And that's right. So if we zoom out here in the entire collective, here's Christina, because you just clicked on that link next to her name. So she is part of the collective, and you can see when you drag Christina around, you can see how she is connected to a lot of other things, people inside the collective. And these connections you see here are computed based on what other groups is she part of, right? So every other groups she has joined thickens these lines basically, right? And you can see, yeah, my name here, and you can see a strong connection between me and Jim Scarver and Michael there, right? It's almost like a triangle thingy there. And that's because we're working together on a lot of activities and circles inside the collective. So that becomes visible. And it's an indicator, again, sort of a signal to others to say, hey, these guys are highly connected and they're working together on stuff. And we plan, when we launch the new website, we actually plan to put that network graph out on our website, so people can do the same thing what you just saw, right? So see the pictures. There's not much information there, right? because it's public information. So you see the names, the pictures, and the links between them as an indicator of how many people are there, right, and how connected is the collective at this stage, right? So that's just another way to create this feedback loop to say, hey, there's stuff going on. Maybe I want to be part. Maybe I want to jump in. Maybe I want to appear in that network too. So all kind of motivating factors here. So intrinsic motivation, right, is very big on the agenda. Not so much the extrinsic part.
Yeah.
That's something we're looking to do later on down the line. So the extrinsic part for me is the reward system, right? So if you do that work, if you are committed to certain activities here, is there any extrinsic reward? Is it a token that you get? Is it a dollar reward that you get? That ties into the other thing, which is the financial ledger, right? So we have the social ledger really recording some of these social activities, and the financial ledger then taking over. It's like an overlap between the two, right? To say, hey, there are some transactions, some things are happening here. Let's record these transactions in the financial ledger. And then it's going into a database, and then you can go further from there, right? You compute rewards or tie it to wallets, do some cryptocurrency stuff, whatever, right? So it's very open and flexible in that regard.
Before we step away from that and dive back into the agenda, I want to add that the Digital Life Collective itself is sort of like a bowl in which other projects can thrive, right? You can come into Mattermost as a member of the collective. You can work on what you want. So you work on the open app ecosystem. You can then use the tools, use the social ledger for your open app ecosystem project, and draw on the expertise that's hanging around the collective. Sorry, I got distracted by Simon's comment.
So I just wanted to ask, this is really useful, and thank you. I think it's super cool what you're doing and what you've built. I think it's great. So bear with the questions, please. But I just wanted to understand, so the social ledger is something you've built for the ground up in order to encourage others to, like you said, come inside the Digital Life Collective and to help sort of facilitate this coordination between different groups and projects that are working on the similar stuff. Is that correct?
Very, very good definition of that. I like it. It's that's one of the other goals we have with the overall idea of why we're forming a collective is eventually there needs to be some kind of a governance process, right? So if we figure out how to govern a large group of people, and I'm talking about not hundreds but thousands of people, right? If there's a governance framework around that, that's not top down, it's not hierarchical in any way, but equal to every participant and transparent to the rest of the collective, right? And sends out good signals to what we're actually doing here. That would go a long way towards, kind of coordinating efforts in collectives, not only here, but in other spaces as well.
Yeah, I think, an important aspect of the social ledger that we have so far, it's a prototype, it's the beginning, is that it encourages self-organizing, self-management, sociocratic structures. Although it doesn't enforce any particular structure, it's people get involved in activities, and that those activities are in channels where they work together, and those become teams or circles that are automatically integrated into the organization of the whole social network and a holonic diagram of the superorganization. But we do have to get on. I'm sorry, draft was late, and we do have to. I think it's a good use case to see if DigLife can help the open app architect ecosystem, and if we can somehow get the benefit of the combined activities of the open app ecosystem and DigLife in building interoperable, open and free software for tech for the world we want.
Right. Great. Christina, do you want to move on to the next topic? And thanks for whoever did the demo in the background. That was cool. You did. Oh, that worked out well. Thank you. All improvised here.
Sure. Let me see. Let me get back to the agenda. Oh, okay. So we have a big update on our website content. I can actually just hop back to a screen share for that in Mattermost, as we had it somewhere. There we go. You can see the update here. I've put this in a couple places throughout Mattermost so that hopefully a few people can hop in. But we're getting very close. We've gone from, I think, almost 30 pages of content, and I've deleted everything that is now stable in Ghost. So we're down to about 10 or 12 pages. And please do read through this list. Encourage anybody else that you're talking to in the next week to read through the list. And if people can jump in, that's great. The two really important pieces are the privacy policy, which is happening in the legal channel. And I think I didn't put in the tech we trust, but the tech we trust is also, I can't believe I forgot to put that in, but the tech we trust conversation.
Trust page.
Trust page.
Yeah, on the trust pending, you have that trust page there.
And then I didn't include the sitemap with the detailed description. I'll go fix that. Anyway, we're having a tech we trust conversation, and we want to get out of that conversation. It's in the main collective channel. It's called Tech We Might Trust. And I don't know if we have this in the social ledger yet. I'll check. Yeah. So there's the decision matrix. And I think maybe Jim, you could put in the document. Can you put in the document that Laura started, where she was kind of trying to combine all those different conversations?
Yeah.
The Kumu, just so you know, the Kumu network map next steps is actually happening in the projects area under network maps. So if you want to actually be involved in the Kumu network mapping, go ahead and join this, the project domain network maps channel. And so those two pieces, getting a very clear, good copy around what is tech we trust, at least at this stage in our development, and getting very good, solid privacy policy that takes the two existing ones that we have and pulls them together. Those are two very, very big pieces that are very close to the heart of why the collective exists, and we need to get them right. So other than that, most of the copy editing stuff is little, tweaks here and there, or waiting for, like we need the Ghost profile link to be able to be set up, that sort of thing, so that members can be listed on the website. And for those who are new on the call, the three of you, if you join in the next 3 weeks, you'll be forever known as a co-founder of the collective. So there's a little pitch. How do I get out of my screen share here? Joaquin, have I missed anything else?
No, that's good. That's the update on the content piece. I think that's great.
Okay.
There's the update on the platform itself. So we're using the Ghost publishing platform, right? And we recently upgraded to version 1 dot something. So they went through a major dot release, and we've done this now rather than waiting to do that later on. So I'm still working on the templates for the updated design. So we're using a specific template, a magazine style layout template that works well with the content that we're putting now into the Ghost publishing platform. And one thing that we recently added, and thank you, Christina, for adding all these images there, is the integration with the Unsplash platform. So Unsplash is a license-free photography site where they allow you actually to link directly, or they create the link into the image that you display on the website. So there's an interface between the two, so you don't have to worry about resolution and quality of the image. That's all done in the background. You just pick the image out of the Unsplash library that they provide. So we're building this image library right now because we want every post to be shown along a nice visual that we post externally. So that's working. Let me see what else on the platform side. No, that's good. If we look at the launch requirements, I always wanted to circle back to that document because that's kind of important when we launch the DigLife Collective in October. So early next month, mid next month or so, we should be ready to show more of what we have. And by show more, I mean we have some content ready, and we're beginning to engage in the social media networks. It's not like the big bang launch here. It's more like a soft launch, I believe.
Yeah.
Where some pieces are ready and other pieces are still in development after the October launch.
I also, speaking with Laura and Steve about marketing and about the nature of the soft launch, we all felt like it was really important to start to reach out into our networks personally, but not do like a major social blast to your whole network, but just specifically like these people would be very, very aligned or very interested, or maybe they're looking for a project and have some time. They have specific skills that are needed in the collective, but also projects like the open app ecosystem, like Scepter, that the structures, the scaffolding that the DigLife Collective is building could actually support them in their communications and in getting their own work done well.
Right. To answer the question here from Ollie and from Draft, I see. So what we currently have out there on diglife.com is just an interim website. This was put up to collect some initial members and membership fees to fund sort of the initial cycle of this. What we're doing right now with Ghost is the second generation of the website, and that's not visible yet. It's not public. And as I mentioned, I'm still working on the templates to get this done by beginning of October. And that has a lot more content. Right now, the website is only a single page thing, and it explains a bit what we're doing. It has some good content that Philip originally put out there, along with the PDF file that attracted the first audience. But the second iteration of this website will be where you see a lot more content and ways to engage. So the engagement process is very important to us for the new launch, for the October launch, because one piece is obviously put the website up. So the public piece with the hooks into the social ledger to see some of the activities that are happening inside already. But then more importantly, once we get new members on board, we want to have a clean, smooth onboarding process, right? So anyone here who's new on the call today, you can give us feedback on that process, actually. We have the onboarding channel in Mattermost. That's the first piece where you land. And there's the welcome guide. If you haven't seen that, step through that. And from there, we're planning to do a lot more things, including the social ledger, where there's one particular dashboard for the different tools we're using, right? So like we call it tool belt. So you can put on your tool belt and use, if you want to author content, you can sign up for Ghost. If you want to create your own team, here's how you use the social ledger. There's a social ledger introduction guide to get you started on that.
And if any of you are going to join the Digital Life Collective and do this onboarding process, I would love to walk you through it and to help that inform, because that's my next project as I move away from the editing content. As that gets stable, I'm going to help with the onboarding process. So I would love to peek over your shoulder as you go through and see where you get confused and help fix that.
Great. So that's the two main parts of what we call the launch requirements here. So getting the website, the public piece up and running, and then getting the onboarding process up and running to make sure that when we get new members, they know what to do and immediately are ready to engage in other activities inside the collective. Alrighty, let me see what else is there. We talked about the visual library thing. Yeah, that's the collection. And there's a link somewhere so you can take a look at the images we have right now. Gives you a feel for the type of imagery we want to put out on the new website. And if you want to add others, just take a look at unsplash.com. There are a lot of images in that library already, and they're adding so much more every day. So we want to build up a collection that reflects our values, our messages. That we can then use for the individual posts. Alrighty, anything else on that, Christina? Think of?
Not that I can think of right now. I think everybody should just applaud Joachim for all of the work that he's doing. We wouldn't have a website without him. Yay!
Cool.
Thank you.
And just for those who are new on the call, we're going from the single page website where you just scroll down and you see everything. That really is very light. It's just our purpose and join us, basically, to a full, like, amazing content-rich website that I hope that you will love, and I'm really excited about it. And so, thank you, Joachim.
Well, thank you all. Thank you for all who participated here. And I hope more will come on board and then help us build that thing together, right? So that's the idea. It's very much decentralized. So anything we do, we don't want to create central functions, right? There's not a central marketing function that does all the marketing stuff, right? We want to push that to the edges of the collective and see, people who want to do some marketing, who want to create content for the website, become an author, set up an account and Ghost. It's very easy to do. Get familiar with the editing and publishing environment, which is basically one screen plus sidebar. And you can start writing your content, right? And then we have a very simple review process, not like the classic workflow thing, right? It has to be approved by someone in the collective, but a review process where, the editorial team can go in there and say, okay, check off, this looks great, let's push it out the door. And then other people can take over and say, okay, let's create the newsletter maybe from the last 4 or 5 posts that we put out there on our website and send that to the people who have signed up on the website itself. I have one more thing, but there's no time today, I see. If you want to follow that, who have access, who can look at the link there, there's a draft for business cards. There's this conference coming up in New York. It's called the Platform Cooperativism Conference that's led by Trevor Schultz. And of course, we want to participate in that conference. And I thought since we're kind of getting ready for October and that conference is in November, at least we should have some cards that we can hand out right, to people who want to get to know us. So I created...
I'll be going to IRW, and we need the same thing for that.
That's cool. So what I'm doing there is I'm outlining a process to tell you how to create these business cards. I have a draft design now for a new card. Again, this is a very decentralized process. So you can actually grab that design put it into moo.com, who has currently a sale going on. It's very important. It's 20% off, I think, of business cards. So you can grab that design and then print your own cards. Send it to yourself or share that with someone else. So that I don't have to get involved in designing all these cards, right? So it's going to be very decentralized, and I'll write about this in the marketing domain in the design channel there. So you can just basically edit the existing template that I put in there, and save it as a PNG file, and then that's what you upload in the moo.com website. It's a very simple process, and we're here just to help you there too.
I have a hard stop and need to jump
Yeah.
straight
Yeah, me
to
too,
see
me
you.
too.
I hope I see you around, and feel free to try and get in touch with me through Jim if you're not in the DigLife Mattermost.
Thanks, Christina. Ciao.
Oops, thank you. So, anybody want to give a reactions to the meeting and before we end here?
Yeah, I'd just like to say a little bit. I mean, I haven't really been through a proper introductory process. I just jumped in and helped with a bit of the governance stuff on the principles, but I'm still a little bit lost. And I'm wondering what appetite there is to kind of go through this and really build a kind of more structured introductory process, sort of self-study guide introductory process, maybe along with, maybe even along with a couple of YouTube videos or something, I don't know what, but, more of to take it on as a real education sort of design challenge.
Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty impressed with a lot of the work that's been done.
Oh, I can't fail to be impressed. Yeah, it's very impressive. That's not its problem.
Right. And I think that now that Christina is going to be focusing more, I think that would be in the marketing. I guess you're in the channel for that. But onboarding is certainly the greatest challenge. I mean, we had Doug Rushkoff come in to our blockchain group, which is now our chain, and he really brought home how much the paradigm is shifting and getting people into the new ideas and frameworks and getting them to use some new tools and if anybody could onboard, then they would have 1 million users. But
and I think I just want to put a slight question mark beside the concept of onboarding, because it's sort of it kind of has the onboarding has this image of a ship and you're either on it or you're not on it, and I think in a way what I would see as really valuable here is an image that actually a great amount of the contribution is going to be done by a long tail of very sort of occasional users. So I guess speaking for a lot of people, I'd really need, I'm guessing that we need a way of people contributing a little bit as easily as possible without needing to go through a long process in order to start contributing. That's not to detract from the importance of commitment as well. I think that's another sort of parallel thread.
I think it's useful here to mention the other Mattermost instance that Jim has set up on chat.diddydale.net, because it gives us the opportunity to mess around in a sandbox with these techniques without messing the content that's relevant to the Digital Life Collective process. So if people are interested in exploring the social ledger and the structure of Mattermost as they interrelate, and playing around with onboarding, offboarding, sideboarding, whatever it is, that alternative channel is a lot more forgiving and easier to access.
Yeah.
than the big league, as it were.
Right, and to Simon's point, we've gone through a couple of iterations for the onboarding process, and I don't know if you're familiar with service design, portfolio design. Here's a screenshot. You might see that from an earlier design run we did on creating a service portfolio for the collective. So that's a specific design thinking model, right? IDEO and others are using that. So I've adopted that for the. Let me make this a bit bigger. You can't see anything. Yeah, I've adopted that for the collective, and you can break it down into all these different audiences and the actions they can take, right? The touch points they have. The lines of interaction and what's visible, what's invisible, what's behind the scenes here, who's on the backstage crew, who's supporting all of these different systems that we have. And at the bottom, you see the technology stack, right? So what is driving, where are the engines to drive all of this stuff? So we've spent some time on thinking this through, but then came back to, say this is good stuff, but then we have to be even more on the front line, So what happens if someone comes actually now on board? What does he or she see there? What buttons can she click? Right? So very tactical stuff, and that to us is, I think, now at the forefront, to make decisions on.
I think it's a really interesting generic challenge, and I think that itself, as well as, I think it's great to hear, the idea that if we can design a governance system which will work for a few thousand people, that's going to be a great contribution, and it will be. And I think also if we can design the kind of necessary ease of use to enable low commitment people to make a real contribution, that's going to be very, very valuable as well. In other words, in order to design a system to enable people to know exactly what they need to know in order to contribute what they need to contribute and no more. That's the crucial thing.
Yes, you're right, and I love that long tail model. That's exactly what needs to happen, because we'll have a lot of people, and they have very few, commitments to make. But those commitments might be very important for the collective, right? We want to see the whole picture. We want to add them all together. That's the aggregate of our output, right? So you're right. They need to see what we're doing. They need to orient themselves quickly, and other people. That's why the transparency part comes in. Is so important to see at a glance what's happening, and you can drill down. But also there are other members of the collective who should be able to jump in and say, help me out here where I am. Help
That's
me
great.
to direct my ideas towards some efforts I want to take.
Yeah, in doing the trial, I have a number of communities that have expressed an interest in participating. They've all been invited to a channel in the DigGife Mattermost. Although the Deck Stack Mattermost instance and the R-Chain Co-op Mattermost instance also have teams connected to the social ledger trial. So when they come in here, they need to type dig activities and see what activities are in. And it looks like I have some things missing here. But, I'm in the lab. They come into the town square channel. And so they need to type dig activities or dig activity. And they get the activities in the channel. And you can see that there's one of them is participate. Am I in the right place? Yeah, it looks like, people are, it looks like there is people contributing here. As of yesterday, there weren't. But if you look at the demo and trial, I can see problems with the onboarding right here in terms of the activities here are not clear in terms of what a person should do.
Well, when I log into this place that you're looking at and sharing yourself, a few of the things are missing for me. So the Town Square development funding model with a little target icon is not in my list. I just get, we work together when we can, chat about the command, etc. And a few things right to the bottom, we vote using up and down thumb reactions. But as Simon says, it's completely unobvious what I'm supposed to do. And I guess that's the process of the trial, right? Like Christina was saying, she wants to work with people to understand the onboarding process. But at the moment, I mean, I think I'm reasonably tech savvy, but I'm lost completely and am sort of struggling to see how and where and what you want me to do.
Yeah.
That was my experience, yeah.
Okay. So clearly, I'm trying to onboard more people from Divi and other communities into helping out here, but we can see that in this circle, okay, we have a few people have committed to activities. In general, what I'm finding in most of the teams that are participating here is that it's almost impossible to get someone to type /dig activities and indicate an interest in participating in one of the activities, or adding activities that they think are important or that they want to be involved in. If I can figure out how to get people to do that, I think they would fall into line and they would start using the /dig command and create teams and this become part of the fabric of the organization here, which now involves a large number of communities. Our chain community is from their own Mattermost instance. The deck stack community, the Divi DAO, and we're looking to add the open app ecosystem as a participant here, so that you can zoom in and see what activities are involved, and if you want to, if you're interested in something and you're a member, whatever, you can. I have to figure out how to do this. Oh well. You can link to the channel. And start conversing with the people, and the activities in that channel.
Right. So one thing I wanted to add here, what I just heard is confusion. A lot of confusion happening right now, and to me, that's a good thing, right? I want confusion because that makes you step back a little bit, clear up your mind, and say, "What am I doing here? What's all this about?" We need that kind of new input here, because it's a new thing. I mean, we're all confused. I'm confused. I can't find my way around, right? So, and then starting to rebuild and doing something that hasn't so far, as I can tell, hasn't been done before, right? And then slowly getting there, step by step, to have a better onboarding process, to have a better user interface into the social ledger, to connect that thing to some token reward systems. So these are all parcels of a larger thing we're putting together here, right? And eventually can replicate that thing into other collectives. That's the idea. So when you're here, I mean, you're very early in the game here. We just started the social ledger thing. It's just a couple of, maybe a month or two old. And then think about where we can take this, in a couple of months and a year from now. So it's early days, right?
I'm going to have to go, but sorry. I'm going to have to go, but I think one little parting comment is that maybe there could be a better title than Social Ledger. Maybe, but I'll have to go. It's great to hear people, and thanks anyway.
Likewise, I have to split, but Joachim and Jim, thank you so much for making the time and inviting us. It's been really useful and great to connect with you properly.
Sure. Yeah. Thanks for being here, Ollie and Simon. Take care.
Yeah. And Lynn, good to see you.
Yes. Cheerio.
Bye.
The other thing that we should mention, along with the open money integration, is self-sovereign identity integration, which our identity workshop is investigating and looking into, and working with our chain to link to the blockchain address, etc., and an open ID provider.
Yeah, speaking specifically to you, Lynn and Bob, this is OVN territory. This is a very rich space for opening up a lot of the components of what you're already doing with different tools. Really encourage your attention on it.
Thanks, and good to see you.
Okay.
After quite a while, yeah.
Oh, another year
Very
in the
cool.
trenches.
It's very cool. So, but I'm thinking I'm going to have a whole bunch of questions. So I'm hoping to find the right channel to ask them and try to, see how a lot of stuff can fit together and see if there's some real group who would be a good fit to try some of this stuff, because it seems like that's the missing link in my mind. Can a group doing work that's not digital use this productively, or anyway, a lot of questions, but I really appreciate the demo, and it's very, very cool.
Yeah, it's and it's confusing, and from confusion will come chaos, and after that maybe creativity. Anyhow, I have to split off and do things, so thank you again, guys. Catch you later.
Okay. Well, yes, we'll say goodbye. Thanks, everyone, for coming. Unless there's any parting statements, I guess.
I already made mine, but yeah, thanks. Thanks very much, Jim, for getting this together here. We'll start communicating through maybe over in Lumio and figure out how to connect it all up.
Do you have any final statement, Draft?
Yeah, I didn't talk much actually. Yeah, thank you for the connection here. And well, we get in touch in the chat. I think, well, get in touch.
Yeah, well, I think it should, maybe you should consider creating a team on Mattermost. And, we haven't had a lot of activity in the Rocket chat. In the Mattermost, we would have the ability to create a lot of channels for the open app ecosystem. And, they would have the opportunity of using the social ledger as it's developing.
Yeah, why not?
I need
why
one.
not?
I need one person, to sort of, at least one person to sort of commit to that. I can set up the team, and then we can try to draw in members. But that's, something I would like very much to do. I think it's something that could give a lot of exposure to open app ecosystem and bring in people who can be that long tail that get the things done.
Yeah. Maybe we could do that. I don't know. I guess it's not up to me actually. So I could join Mattermost. I'm already on the channel of the lab. I don't know, Town Square.
Oh, great. Wonderful. Yes, we have 2 people already. That's enough for me to establish a team now.
Oh yeah. Well, if you want to establish a team in the Mattermost, you can do that, and yeah, we can try. Yeah, it could be nice. Actually, it could be really nice. So if you want to do it, just do it, and I will. Yeah.
See if we can get anybody to onboard.
Yeah, like that. If it works, then we will stay on it.
Right.
I'm up to it.
Any participation will help us in the design at this point. We get any reaction from people at all.
Yeah, that would be nice.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, let's do that.
All right, guys. Thanks so much, and talk to you soon.
Yeah, nice to see you guys. Bye.
All right.